Excellent. Welcome, everybody. It is September 21st. My name is Christian Höferle, and you are here for the webinar on the power skills you need for success in working abroad. Today's talk is about the power skills, a set of power skills that we call ICE-Q, and we will unpack what this means here throughout the session. We should be done in about roughly 45 minutes. So I hope to have this complete and have all your questions answered by 15 minutes after the hour, wherever in the world that might be. It will be 1:15 Eastern time for me. And I see Ford from New Jersey, that will be the same time. Some of you are dialing in from different time zones. I trust that you're capable of making that conversion. So again, welcome. My name is Christian. I am German by birth. I am also American, US American by choice. And I'm also a cultural commuter. Business clients and friends have been calling me a nickname. The nickname is the culture guy. And some would say that's a bit of a corny name. And I thought so initially as well. I wasn't really sure whether I liked that name. And my friends and clients made it clear to me that if you're constantly talking about culture and educating people about cultural differences, then you are the culture guy. So I accept it with humility that this has become my moniker in business and my nickname for a lot of people. And some might even say that what Anthony Bourdain is to the world of food, I am to the world of business. Now, argue that might be a stretch. I don't want to compare myself to the great Anthony Bourdain. However, it is my passion and my profession and my mission to educate people about cultural differences, about the beauty of cultural diversity, and also about the sometimes challenges that culture can create for us, whether it be at work or outside of work, or as a mixture of both. If we are working abroad, that often means that we are not only working and doing our job in a different culture, it also means we live our lives in a different culture. And I've been in global business throughout my entire professional career. For more than a dozen years, I've worked in the international entertainment industry as a business journalist. And since 2008, I've been working as a consultant for global businesses through our company, The Culture Mastery. You see it here on that surfboard, and a little bit on that surfboard in a second. For more than a decade, clients from all over the world have been coming to us to learn about the power skills that make a global business a success. Now, here's a key distinction for you. It is not the company that is going global, that is working abroad. It is your people. It might be you yourself. So I think it's clear to, or it's important to make that clarification that it's not necessarily the company that's going abroad. Companies are people, the people that work in the company. It is the people that work abroad. That's the people that go global. And as you expand your business activities internationally, these very people on your team, maybe you, need to become global ready. And every company that has ever done business globally has been faced with cross-cultural challenges. Whether you're expanding into new markets, acquiring business assets abroad, or continuing your international operations with a steady influx of new talent, you will need to bridge the culture gap. Bridging the culture gap is a requirement. Cultural differences aren't simply a possibility in global business. They won't just happen by chance. They're an inevitable certainty. So today we're going to talk about the power skills. We call them ICE-Q. What does ICE-Q mean? What is that? Why do you need it? And as it says here, what happens if you don't get it? You see that banner behind me? So you might be able to read it. It says, if you don't get culture, culture will get you. And this will follow us throughout this presentation. And you've been wondering what's with the surfboard? Well, we're using that as a metaphor. We want you to avoid shipwreck in these uncertain waters that you're sailing or surfing into. We want you to keep your balance. We want you to surf smoothly. And all of this is done with a set of power skills. As I said, ISQ, we call them power skills for a reason. A lot of people have different words for it. And as you will find out, those terms may not be accurate. So here's a warning about a real business threat in international business. If you and your team don't understand culture, if you don't get culture, culture will inevitably affect how you work with each other. It will inevitably affect how you do business, and it's only a matter of time. Cross-cultural challenges are real, they're very real, and without power skills, without ISQ, they will get your business. And failing to recognize and failing to adjust to behavioral differences leads to a variety of real business risks. So one could be that the cultural differences within your team cause miscommunication or inefficiencies, friction that becomes expensive. Cultural differences between your organization, between you and your clients or your vendors can jeopardize negotiations. They can jeopardize existing relations. And as a result, your bottom line. So cross-cultural differences, cultural or not getting culture is a bottom line relevant aspect of global business, of working abroad. And there are many horror stories, many cautionary tales of business failures or failed mergers due to the lack of these power skills, due to the lack of ISQ. There's a story of Daimler and Chrysler, the famously failed merger that was billed as what they called a merger of equals. And it turned out it was neither equal, nor was it a successful merger. It started out as a $37 billion, yes, I think 37 billion US dollar valued merger. And by the time Daimler divested of Chrysler, the assets had shrunk to a mere 7 billion. So that's a $30 billion cross-cultural failure, talking about cautionary tale, talking about horror story, talking about how not getting culture gets your business. Microsoft and Nokia had similar stories. There's the story of British Steel and the Dutch Royal Hohovens company. So there's many of these stories where cultural mismatches or the inability to cross the culture gap has cost investors, has cost companies, has cost employees money, their jobs, their livelihoods, their future. ISQ is the power skill package you and your employees need to overcome the cultural threat to your business. Now, there's also some success stories where companies, some of them are our clients, and those are the ones that I can speak on with authority, have used these skills to their advantage. So they became culture savvy. They used and developed the power skills in order to sail smoothly and stably across these waters. One of those success stories is that of Recaro Aircraft Seating, a small mid-sized German company who are in the business of making seats for aircraft. So they also make other seats for toddlers and babies. They also make car seats. You may have actually sat in one of their products, either flying across the world or driving in a vehicle. And we've dealt with their operations both in Germany and in the United States, as well as in China. And we've helped them cross the culture gap successfully and helped them from a variety of potentially business threatening scenarios, one being losing face in Asian markets with inappropriate business practices. Another story would be that of Rootman and Time Manufacturing. Time Manufacturing, a US conglomerate of machine making and industrial manufacturing assets and businesses. And they recently acquired a German company by the name of Rootman. You may have seen their products. They make, among many other things, these bucket trucks that drive around town, and the bucket crane goes up and down where the linemen would fix power lines or phone lines or any type of lines that are spun across the cities on these poles. And Rothman, being acquired by a US company, recognizing that there will be a culture gap, proactively prepared their leadership team for what it will be like to be working with US counterparts, reporting differently, having different hierarchical structures and communication practices within their organization. What I would say is a glorious success story of a company applying the power skills of IceQ and developing that within their leadership team. And finally, I would like to mention a success story we had with the Wacker Chemical Corporation, a global organization that is specialized in everything around silicium products, silicates, silicon, the stuff that goes into your computer chips and the solar panels on the roofs. And they started a greenfield project in the rural southeast of the United States, came in with a very European-centric mindset, quickly discovered that the US is not the walk in the park endeavor that they imagined it to be. And we have been helping them for years in closing and minimizing the culture gap. So global mindset, why do we need it? Pourquoi, warum, porque? Because it is helping us steer this business ship across the waters, across international waters, and avoiding us from running into rough waters and shipwrecking and jeopardizing our heavy load, our hard-earned money, our product, our client relationships, our business. Because if we're sailing into foreign harbors, we will inevitably experience behaviors that are different from the ones we experience in our home markets. And we will ride the waves of culture, as one of my famous colleagues titled a book, Riding the Waves of Culture by von Strompenhaus. But riding the waves of culture requires that you know how to sail that ship, how to stand on that surfboard, how to have the right power skills to keep that cultural balance. Because oftentimes we sail into it and are not aware that it will be different waters, that the flow of water, the winds and the streams will be different, that we won't see the culture the way it actually is. We see it through our own eyes with our sometimes misperceptions of the reality. And that's where the power skills of IceQ will help us. So what is IceQ then? IceQ is the combination of IQ plus CQ plus EQ. So IQ, as you see here, the equation on the bottom of this picture, IQ, many of you are familiar with it. That's your intelligence quotient. It is what you know about the work you do, your subject matter expertise. You're also your global expertise, what you already know about another culture. So what you know is the scope of knowledge of which you're aware. What you don't know are the knowledge gaps of which you're aware. And then there's this, what I would call the IQ danger zone. That's this big piece of the pie, the things you don't know and aren't even aware that you don't know them. This is obviously a trap, especially in business interactions with people from other cultures. The damage will already be done once you realize you committed a cultural blunder because of a knowledge gap that was outside of your awareness. Right? Now, back to the equation. CQ, or cultural intelligence, that is the capability to relate and work effectively and consistently across cultures for your business success. It has 4 parts. Let's look at those. It has CQ drive. That is your level of interest and confidence during multicultural interactions. Now, ask yourself, how relevant is it for you to succeed in a global context? On a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being not important at all, and 10, it's mission critical. how would you rate your importance to succeed on a global scale? So write that in the chat box right now. We're amongst us. Just write a number from 1 to 10. Is it important for you or is it not? How important is it? Is it a 1? Is it a 9? Is it a 7? Ford says it's a 10. So it is mission critical for Ford. I'm curious to hear about the others. How important is it to yourself? How relevant is it for you to succeed on a global level? Part 2 of CQ is CQ knowledge. Be totally honest with yourself. Do you know enough? How thoroughly do you understand the differences and similarities of the cultures you're doing business with? Nobody's asking you to be an expert. The answer to the knowledge question should indicate to you if you have information blind spots and where they are. So again, building your cultural IQ, that's part of the CQ. That's why we're looking at this as a power skill set, not as separate abilities and capabilities. Step 3, CQ strategy. That's where we develop your plan. Are you aware that it will benefit you to strategize best practices for dealing with your foreign counterparts? Are you able to map out the how of your cross-cultural interactions? Because the how is just as important as the what. Excuse me. And finally, CQ action. That's where the rubber meets the road. Now that you have a plan, you will want to implement it. The 4th phase of building CQ, cultural intelligence, marks the transition from thinking to doing. How capable are you to execute on your cross-cultural strategy? Your results will not always be exceptional in the beginning. You'll make mistakes. You will step on people's toes, and be okay with that. We're humans. Focus on recovering from small cultural mistakes that don't turn into expensive cultural blunders. And you see, it is a continuous circle, because once you've put your plan into action, once you implemented the plan, once you went from the thinking and strategizing to the doing part, you will recognize that maybe you have even more drive to learn more and become more culturally competent. And it is a perpetual circle of improvement. Now, we have ways to measure that. There's tools that we use with our clients that help us identify where they are in the world of, or in their development of cultural intelligence. We use, among many tools, we use a cultural profiling instrument called GlobeSmart Profile, which measures culture along 5, what we call dimensions. You see here, diametrically opposed behavioral preferences. You see whether a culture is predominantly independent or individualistic as compared to interdependent or collectivistic. You see the 2nd dimension is around hierarchy, whether a culture is more egalitarian or more status driven. You also see as a 3rd dimension how comfortable is a society or a culture around uncertainty and risk taking. 4thly, how do they communicate in a direct, low context or in an indirect, high context manner? And finally, what is dominating the work environment? Is it the task orientation, getting the job done, or is it also important to have well-greased, well-functioning, well-developed relationships amongst the people that work together, or the client vendor relationship? So these are the 5 overlaying dimensions of the GlobeSmart profile, which can be broken down into subcategories, which can take, depending on the engagement with our clients, can take up quite a little bit of time to administer these assessments and also debrief it together with the participants. You can see here, as an example, we plotted 5 different nation cultures from different continents against each other. Now, nations are only one element to define cultural spaces. There's many other factors how we define cultures. One would be ethnicity. Another one would be maybe religion, corporate culture, generational, occupational, regional, local culture. All of these are factors that factor into developing cultural intelligence. So looking at nation cultures in and by themselves would be only a very limited way to look at this, but this is a starting point for a conversation. And this profile then also allows us to compare individual cultural profiles with each other. So it's a very versatile tool that we've successfully been using with our clients for years. Another element of this behavioral comparison instrument is a tool that can be seen as an extension of the GlobeSmart profile. Some of you actually may have come across this book called The Culture Map by Erin Meyer, that the author is intimately familiar with the GlobeSmart profile instrument. She's worked for the company many years ago and now teaches at INSEAD University in Paris. And she's overlaying cultural dimensions to give it a little bit more 3D approach. I think it's quite helpful for some clients. You see here a model to measure communication styles. Is a culture okay in being confrontational when they communicate, or is that something to be avoided? Mapped over the emotional involvement in the communication, and you can quickly plot nation cultures and individual cultures here on 4 quadrants, which are quite helpful to illustrate and explain different behavioral preferences in different cultures. The same you could do here for how hierarchical is a culture. You see that here on the horizontal axis, and the vertical axis is looking at how top-down or consensual these hierarchies may or may not play out. Again, a more multifaceted approach to looking at dimensional cultural comparisons. So these are some of the tools that we use with our clients in order to measure, build, and expand CQ, cultural intelligence, because it then becomes a stability anchor, a lighthouse, a guiding light and stability for successfully working abroad. Now let's come back to this equation that I showed you earlier. So I told you that ICQ is consisting of these 3 elements. IQ, a lot of people are familiar with it. CQ seems to be still a somewhat new aspect to this for a lot of people in global business. The final, or the third piece, is emotional intelligence, a variable that has been, I would argue, been quite familiarized in global business circles. The combination of the 3 is what makes this unique. I think that's why we call it power skills. Now, why do we put this in a formula? So this may be an oversimplification, but hear me out. This is really an important oversimplification, because it clarifies the relevance of the power skills. Because global growth is dependent on these factors in this equation. So you see ICQ symbolized or identified by these 3 symbols. You have the brain for intelligence quotient, you have the globe symbol for cultural intelligence, and you have the heart symbol for emotional intelligence. They are a factor in this global growth equation, because you will only grow your business if you're doing business, if you have a number of business opportunities, and you also have business opportunities that come with a substantial value, right? So you have all these factors: deal value, number of opportunities, and your power skill set. However, detrimental to your success, to your growth, will be how long will it take for you to learn, how steep is and long is your learning curve, and what is your failure rate? How many times can you tolerate not to close the deal? How many times can you tolerate not to be successful, or not to finish that project, or not to have a signature on a contract after this negotiation? So we argue that if you increase your ICQ, and if you decrease your failure rate and shorten your learning process, or flattening your learning curve, your growth, your global growth, will rise exponentially. So IceQ is not what some people might call a soft skill. It is what we call a power skill. So let's look at the third component here, emotional intelligence. You can't explain everything with culture. Emotional intelligence is your ability to perceive, use, understand, and manage your emotions and the emotions of your team members and employees. This means you want to acquire the knowledge and skill set to identify people's personalities and emotional frameworks. EQ is your ability to recognize personality profiles and personality types, can be learned and can be practiced. So IceQ, as I said, is not what some people call soft skills. IceQ is the set of power skills that enable you to communicate, inspire, persuade, manage, and lead on an international scale. So why does this matter? Because culture and different behaviors are the fundamentals of working with each other. Without understanding each other, without knowing, learning how to contact your business partners, how to introduce yourself, how to establish and maintain trust, how to resolve conflicts, how to develop new relationships and network, how to talk with each other, communicate with each other, how to negotiate, how to give feedback, both positive and negative feedback. Without all of this, is influenced by culture, by personality. Without your power skill set of IceQ, you'll have a really hard time succeeding in these business relevant activities. So how do we do this? How do we measure EQ? So we use a personality profiling tool called Codebreaker Bank. Bank is an acronym that stands for B-A-N and K. That stands for B for blueprint, A for action, N for nurturing, and K for knowledge. So technically, it has nothing to do with a financial institution. However, I would argue IceQ is a bottom line relevant skill set. So if you develop IceQ, you can take it to the bank, right? So bank does become part of that equation in a way, because your global growth, your success in working abroad will also be measured by the bank account, how much you're making, how much you're saving, and how many losses you're preventing by developing IceQ. So what is this bank profile? There's many profiles, personality profiles out there in the market. I'm not making any of them wrong or invalid. We found that the bank Codebreaker profile has helped us and our clients to quickly identify personality types, especially around decision-making. So decision-making, I think, is a critical element to recognize in others, because it shows us how people would like to work with each other, how they want to proceed, how they want to take the next step. So decision-making is an important aspect of human behavior, and recognizing how other people prefer to make decisions is something that falls into the emotional intelligence side of IceQ. And the Codebreaker technology, or the Codebreaker methodology, allows us to recognize people's decision-making patterns based on their value system. So it's a values-based personality profile. And you see here, for these 4 archetypes that are the part of the bank Codebreaker, you see those different personality archetypes and the values that they represent. So none of us are simply one of these archetypes. We are all 4 of them. My personality code consists of all 4 of these to varying degrees. To which degrees it does matter to my personality, that is how you, that's what you learn during an IceQ training where you learn how to identify people's decision-making. Because I'm going to divulge this information now. This is typically, I don't give that away typically, but my dominant code in the code breaker system is the green value card, the knowledge card. So to me, this is the dominant value set. The least important to my personality is the blue one, the blueprint. Does not matter to me as much. The knowledge piece of the knowledge archetype is what I am dominant in. Actually, my complete bank code is KANB. So for those of you who are trained in this methodology, you immediately know how Christian likes to make decisions. And once you know that, you know how to address that person. You know how to frame instructions. You know how to construct feedback for a person with that personality. So a multifaceted approach to human intelligence and to durable power skills. Now, I'm curious, let me know in the chat box, what are some of the core challenges you're working on right now in global business? I have Marcella here in the chat box saying that she had to bounce off, and she's been part of this presentation before, so excellent. So we have return visitors, love it. So let me know in the chat box, what is one of your biggest challenges in working globally right now? And for those of you who don't feel comfortable doing this publicly in the chat box, towards the end, you'll have my email and my phone number. We can always talk about this one-on-one. Now, and we do this one-on-one or in a more personalized setting. In our upcoming course, we have a live online training coming up towards the end of this month, actually just a week from now. We're calling it Doing Business Abroad with the Confidence of Cultural Competence. And let me honor here a comment from Anne saying, getting others to recognize the need for training. Yes, Anne, that is a challenge. And I would suspect you are working in a role that is leadership, learning development, human resources, probably. I'm making an uneducated guess here, Anne. Feel free to comment on this. Getting others to recognize the need for training can be a challenge. However, once you know what people's behavioral preferences are, what their communication preferences are, what their personality types are, what value system they respond well to, then you can structure your approach, your argumentative or your persuasion approach to them. We, and I include myself, we're all guilty of this. I'm making a sweeping generalization. We're guilty of communicating through our preferred way, thereby leaving out all the other communication styles out there. And not always do we connect well because we default to our factory settings. But factory settings is what the phone comes with as you get it out of the package, but you always customize it along the way. So the more we can customize our behavioral style, the quicker we'll be, or the more successful we'll be in bringing our point across. And thanks for clarifying, Anne. Anne is working for university, head of international programs. I'd love to learn more about this, and let's get in touch after this session, and I'll show you how to do that. So for those of you who want to dive deeper into this IceQ power skill topic, we have this training coming up next week. Doing business abroad with the confidence of cultural competence. And I will put the link in the chat box where you can actually find that, where you can sign up for that. And I should have prepared that, and I realize now that I didn't, so bear with me. Here in the chat box, you will see a link to this training. This is happening next week. So what's in it? What do you get in that training? So it's a 3-hour live online training consisting of 2 sessions of 90 minutes each. The first session is a focus on cultural intelligence, on CQ. The second session is a focus on EQ, emotional intelligence. So you're getting access to the GlobeSmart profile to create your own cultural profile and understand how to use it with others. You also get to create your own personality profile, your bank codebreaker profile, how to debrief it, use it with clients and team members. You also get an introduction into NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, into another methodology of efficient, nonviolent communication between people. So this is all part of this 3-hour live training. It will be on September 28 and 29. So this is only a week from now. It will be done via Zoom, just like here, and delivered in, as I said, 2 90-minute sessions. So if you're in, type it in the chat box now. If you need to learn more about this, if you want to have a one-on-one with me, it is very easy to do so by emailing me at this email or giving me a call at this number. Super easy to stay in touch, get in touch with me. And it's up to you. This is your decision to make, whether it's for yourself or for the organization that you work. You have a choice. You can either be successful when working outside of your own culture. You can be in that blue ocean to the right of the image. If your choice is to insist on keep doing it the way you've always done it, to do it your way, that is the red ocean. That is the shark infested water. Good luck. Some people succeed there because they need this type of pressure and threat level in order to succeed. In my experience, it is a lot less stressful and a lot less costly to stay on the blue side of that ocean. So again, let me know if you're in. Give me a call, send me an email. We have more details around this. The link in the chat box will lead you to the registration page where it has all the deliverables of this training lined out. Next week, add it to your calendar, add it to your development, to your professional and personal development. And we have a couple of more minutes, 2-3 more minutes. If you have any questions, let me know in the chat box now. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in that training next week. We'll have a small, intimate group. It will be very interactive. We'll do exercises together. You'll do a little bit of success work, as we would like to call it, not homework, success work, to make you more successful across cultures. And we're going to get you there. We're going to build your power skill set. So I'm honored that you spent time with me here today. I know you got other things to do. You are busy people. So am I. So let's get this going. See you next week in the training program. Again, link is in the chat box. Email or call me. Thank you very much for your attention. This was the Culture Mastery webinar on ICE-Q and the power skills that you need for successfully working abroad. Thank you for your attention. Hope to see you again soon. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.